everyone, welcome to the new video. So I got this comment from Dreamer that can you make a video on how to create a mount point and allocate storage. So here we go today with this topic, and it will be beginner friendly. We'll discuss what is mount point, why this mounting is required, and we'll deep dive into the deeper details. So without further ado, let's start. So we'll see these are the steps. First of all, we check what are the available disk. Then we create partition in the disk. Then we format disk, mount storage, making the mount permanent. So these all are the steps on the higher level. Before going deeper, we'll understand what is disk, like what are disk, and then why we are creating partitions in the disk, then why we are mounting storage, and then why so we'll understand these terms first. Disk is like when a hardware disk is attached to a Linux server for storage. So a disk is attached, like a C drive or a new disk, whatever F drive, whatever we attach to a server, but it doesn't become usable for us. We cannot use it like that. So take example, when we have a USB drive, when we connect a USB drive or anything, we connect a mobile to our laptop. So to check the folders or to check the contents of our mobile in our laptop, we have to go to a particular path under C drive, and there is a folder created under which we can access the files of our phone in our laptop. Similarly, whatever we are going to store in that drive or in that disk, it has to be accessible somewhere, and that's why we do all this thing. Okay, so we create partitions because for organizing things, that okay, this is a drive, this partition will be for this storage, this partition will be for this storage. So we are creating the partition for organizing. Then we create a file system in our server. In our server we create a file system. So file system helps in storing the files in those partition. So which file will go where, how it tracks all the metadata, like who is the owner, what is the space it is consuming. All the metadata of those files is handled by file system. So file system take care that okay, if a file of database or if a file of backup has came, so it should go in the backup partition. Then we mount that file system or a folder, whatever file system we have created, to that storage. Okay, now whatever if we have to access any file of that particular storage, we need to go to that file system and check the folders what are present. So I hope the basic details are clear, and why we create all this thing is clear now. So first of all, if we check that what are the available disks, like first we need to check that in our system, and for that we use lsblk command. That will give that what disk is currently in use, what partitions are there, and everything. If suppose we'll see that if there is a disk which is unused, we can whatever our choice is, we'll pick that disk and we'll start creating the partition if the partitions are not created already. So for creating partition, we use sudo fdisk whatever the disk which is available. Suppose it is dev sdb. So now inside fdisk we need to press N to create a new partition. Select P for primary partition. Press enter for default partition number. Press enter again for default start sector. Press enter again for full disk usage. And finally press W to write changes. So after you'll give this command, all these options will come which I have given. Okay, then once you have created the partition, you need to see that the partition is created properly or not, which we can again see by lsblk command. And now we can see that there is a partition created with one number. That means partition is created successfully. Now we'll create a file system. So before using the partition, we must create a file system on it, and here we will use ext4 file system, which is commonly used in Linux. Now we'll create the file system xtf4 using sudo fkfs command file system. Okay, xtf4 on dev sdb. Now when we create a file system, now we simply mount point is like we are now mounting so a mount point is simply a directory where the storage device will be attached. So after creating a mount point, first of all we are creating the file system, okay, which will help in storing the files in those partition. Then where the mount point, like where actually that storage device should be accessible, and then it will get attached to a file system. So we are creating a mount point using sudo mkdir-p mnt data. We can verify using ls-ld and we can see the mount point. Now we'll mount the file system to that now we'll mount the file system using command sudo mount dev sdb mnt data. So basically, first of all, we have created a file system, okay, so that partition is so whatever files, how files will go in which partition in the disk. Then we are creating a mount point. Like mount point is like a folder which we will access if any time we have to go to the storage device and check the file stored, and then we'll mount the file system to a disk. So sudo mount the disk partition and the mount point. Now we will do df-h mnt data. We'll see the file system size, available space, mount location. This confirms the storage is mounted successfully. Now why we are making mount permanent? Because after reboot the mount will disappear. That's why we make it permanent by making an entry in a etc fstab file. So we need to do changes in fstab file. We can use vim or vi and add this line dev sdb mounted to memnt data, and file system is xtf4 defaults 02. This tells Linux to automatically mount the file system during reboot. And if we need to verify that it has become a permanent mount, then we should do sudo mount -a. So this command checks for error in the fstab configuration. If there are any error, it will give the error. But if we see that there are no error appears, and the file system is visible, the configuration is correct. Now we need to test the storage by making a file inside that file system, and see that if we are able to make the changes, store the files, read the file, and in this way we'll test the storage. If the file is created and readable, the storage setup is done properly. Now if we can see that we have done first lsblk to see that what all disk or are present. So we can see that sda is present and it already has the partition, but sdb is unused. Okay, then we'll create a new partition using sudo fdisk dev sdb, and it will ask for these changes, partition type, command, and for help, all these what I have given, default number. Then we'll check the partition. We'll see that the partition is created for sdb also. Then we'll create the file system on the partition using sudo mkfs command. Then we'll create a mount point. We'll mount the file system. To make the mount permanent, we need to do sudo nano etc fstab. We'll add this line, and after adding the line and saving it, we'll verify permanent mount using mount sudo mount a. And if we are able to store the files, make the changes that file, read it, write it, then the storage is created properly. So I will give all the steps in the description box for your reference. So yeah, that's all. So that's all for today's video. I hope it's helpful. Please let me know your views in the comment section. Till then, take care. Bye.